Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we are back talking golf, and we are talking about the fifth major, the Players Championship. Here on this episode, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the Players Championship for 2026, talking about the course itself, TPC Sawgrass, the event format, and the golfers that are playing here, and telling you everything you need to know that is going to help you win in DFS betting and one and done this week. And we're going to do it all efficiently. We are going to do it in 30 minutes or less. That is what makes us different here is we're going to take a whole lot of information and jam pack it into not a whole lot of time. So that way this would really need to, it's really the only thing you need to watch if you want to be prepped for the Players Championship this week. Now, I will say we are getting this out early this week for two reasons. One, because it is the fifth major. DraftKings has already put the salaries out for DFS. The betting odds are already on the board, so we can, go ahead and get started looking at it and breaking it down. And then secondly, this is also a pretty big week in college basketball with conference tournaments taking place. So we're going to have college basketball content pretty much every single night this week. And by recording this on Sunday night, that kind of gives us the most availability to record college basketball content. So make sure you go check that out if you have not already. And make sure you're subscribed. That way you can go ahead and be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season as well. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the Players Championship. All right, so the Players Championship is hosted at one of the most iconic golf courses in America. Like, I think honestly, if you were to just, ask people like, hey, what are the most famous golf courses in America? I think that Augusta National would probably be one. Pebble Beach would probably be two. And I think the TPC Sawgrass would probably be number three. Certainly, if you showed people pictures, they would be able to know what this golf course is, right? Especially of the 17th hole and most iconic holes in all of the world, right? So it's always fun to come here at TPC Sawgrass. This is one of my favorite courses on the PGA Tour. However, I do think that the analysis of this course, it can get a little bit mislabeled and a little bit misnomered, okay? So TPC Sawgrass generally has this reputation now as being like this short and positional Pete Dye golf course because, it being designed by Pete Dye. Pete Dye designed a lot of short positional golf courses that, we see all the time on the PGA Tour, like TBC River Highlands, like PGA West, like Harbor Town, right? But this is not a short golf course anymore. It's been lengthened by about 100 yards. It's now rated out at about 7,350 yards. And also, this kind of gets misnomered as like a supremely difficult golf course. And it's really not that anymore either. So basically, the Players Championship previously had been in May when the PGA Tour featured a much more sensible schedule, in my opinion. And then in 2019, when they moved the Players Championship or the PGA Championship to May, the Players Championship ended up moving to March and kind of being like the opener to major season. Well, that move changed how the course played dramatically because, in case you didn't know, it gets quite hot in Florida in May. And so in May, the course could really be baked out, dried out, incredibly firm, incredibly fast, right? With them hosting it in March now, especially in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, which is not southern Florida, for the record. I'm not a geography expert, but I know that this is not South Florida. And with this location in Florida, what you're going to see with the agronomy is you're going to see a lot of overseed. We have mentioned this on the channel before. I am not an agronomy expert, but what I do know is that climates that generally have a pretty harsh winter will see an overseed of a lot of their Bermuda grass. That way they can get it up and running this time of year. What that overseed does is it kind of makes everything nice and fluffy and lush and long, and it makes everything really predictable. The bounces are predictable. The rolls on the green are predictable. It's not as firm and fast as a baked out Florida golf course would be. And so you've seen ever since this tournament moved to 2019, it's played significantly easier. And what that means also is it reduces the amount of variability in the golf shots. So really, this is like the ultimate what you see is what you get golf course. Like this golf course, because it's a Pete Dye design, because it is such a famous golf course, and the way it kind of was designed and weaves through the land, it throws a lot at you, but there's not a lot of variables because what you see is what you get because of the overseed. It is why guys like Scotty Scheffler have played very well here. When you think about Scotty Scheffler, what is his superpower? His superpower is course management and mitigating misses, right? Like Scotty Scheffler is a fairly long driver of the golf ball. He's a very accurate driver of the golf ball, and he's an elite iron player. And basically, if he knows that there's water in this spot, then he's going to plan his shot to not hit the water, and he's very good at avoiding big misses. And at a course like this, you can avoid the big miss and miss in the right spots all the way to a championship, which is exactly what he's done. So let's talk about what this course does throw at you, right? So with it being a Pete Dye design, there are a ton of bunkers, there are a ton of water hazards, and there are a ton of dog legs. So really, this is a super strategic golf course because with the trees, with the bunkers, with the water, with the dog legs, you just have to play the right angles on every single shot. Like, this is the ultimate thinking man's golf course. On any single shot at this golf course, you could send your tournament down the drain with a really bad shot. Like, that's just kind of how it goes. Like, you just have high leverage shot after high leverage shot after high leverage shot. It's what makes watching this tournament so entertaining. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is that literally every single shot you're looking, you're like, oh boy, he better miss the water here. Oh boy, he can't hit it in the trees here. Oh boy, he can't hit it in the bunker there. Like, there's just something lurking at every turn. And so that kind of plays into what I just mentioned about how this course is all about missing to the right spots and being super strategic. This course is also about having all of the shots in your bag. There are plenty of forced layups. There are plenty of holes where you're going to take less than driver off the tee. And there's also, with it being a par 72 with 4 par 5s, there's also going to be a plurality of all lengths of approach shots into greens. And so you're going to have to use your whole bag at this golf course, and you're going to have to use your whole bag well at this golf course. The very last point that I want to make is, if this kind of sounds like a lot of what I've talked about with the Florida golf courses, Bay Hill and PGA National the last few weeks, what I would say that this course does differently is it is a much more difficult short game golf course, right? The way Pete Dye designed the golf course, if you miss the green, there are not only bunkers everywhere, there's not only water everywhere, but there's all these humps and hollows that your ball could get caught in, and it could be in short grass, it could be in rough, but you don't really know what lie you're going to get. You could have a side hill, uphill, downhill lie, and it really does test the short game and makes it a lot more difficult to get up and down on this golf course. So that is one thing I would add this week is, if you're sitting there saying, this is just the same thing we've been looking for the last 2 weeks, I would add the fact that I do think this golf course does necessitate good short game play. And lastly, I will say, it's shown on your screen right now, this is probably the best and most iconic stretch of 3 finishing holes on the PGA Tour. It has kind of been like the cookie cutter for an ending stretch of any new golf course that's been designed or been added to the PGA Tour schedule. 16 is a reachable par 5 with water all down the right side. 17, you have the island green par 3. And then 18, you have the winding par 4 that's a dog leg around water as well. And so you just have 3 holes where the tournament can be won or lost. Last year we saw Rory and JJ Spawn go to a playoff on these holes, and it was electric. It's just the finishing stretch here is just so iconic and so great that when Sunday rolls around, I know it's going to be Selection Sunday for college basketball, but I'm going to be tuning in to this finish if it's close, right? Or if I've got the selection show for March Madness on the TV, I'm going to be watching this on the phone or on the iPad, because the finishing stretch is just so elite. And it really, this is a tournament that is truly worthy of its name, right? Like, this course is worthy of hosting a tournament that is akin to a major championship. It is worthy of being called the 5th major. Pete Dye was asked to design a golf course to fit that description, and he utterly killed it. And this is a great event, great tournament. And we've got a great field, probably the best field we're going to see in any non-major this year, because it's a full field signature event, which we don't see very often. And so this is just going to be a great week of golf, y'all. And I hope that you guys are looking forward to it like I am. And I hope you guys feel the same way. All right, let's go ahead now and talk about the key stats for this week. So the number one key stats this week, this is a golf course where, like I said, you're going to have to bring the whole bag. So I want to look at strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, and strokes gained around the green. You are going to have to be a complete player to win this week. Bottom line, you're not just going to have, 2 components of your game firing and be able to win. You got to bring the whole bag. I also think par 5 scoring is pretty important this week, with there being 4 par 5s on the property. You're going to want to do a lot of your hay on those par 5s, just because there's not a whole lot of birdie holes out there. And all the par 5s are reachable in 2 shots. All the par 5s are very birdieable. So if you're a good par 5 player, that definitely elevates you this week. I mean, you think about the guys that have won here. A lot of elite par 5 players have won here, like Rory McIlroy winning this tournament twice, more specifically twice since it's moved to March. I don't think course history is super important, because this is just a super volatile golf course, right? You can throw your tournament away and miss a cut on any given shot on Thursday and Friday. So I really, really like not necessarily looking at course history this week, but I like looking at comp course history and I like looking at recent form because of the fact that I do think you have to have a complete game here. I don't want to bring somebody whose game is in shambles because I don't think this is the type of course where you're going to find it, right? This is a course where you come in to continue form, not to find form. And so when it comes to comp courses, I think there are three buckets of courses that really fit as good comps this week. Your Florida courses, PGA National and Bay Hill, your TBC courses like TBC Scottsdale, and then Pete Dye designs like TBC River Highlands. All three of those buckets really do fit the mold of what we're looking for here, right? Like you've got a positional golf course that's going to involve the whole bag where you just have to avoid the water, have to avoid the hazards, and have to play smart golf. And at all those buckets to varying degrees, you're going to see that, right? Like I mentioned that, this course is a little more difficult short game than the Florida courses. It's like the biggest, baddest TBC course, and it's the longest Pete Dye course. But yeah, like those buckets will kind of fit what we're looking for this week. I also think Muirfield Village is a great shout as a comp course. It's another course where driving accuracy over distance is valued. We mentioned that last week on the pod. And it's also a golf course where you have to bring your whole bag, and the best players in the world tend to show up. And you've seen a lot of crossover winners there, like none other than Mr. Scott Scheffler. And then you look at courses where people have had a lot of crossover success at. A lot of dual winners at Sedgefield, YLI, and TPC Southwind here at this event. Sedgefield, home of the Wyndham Championship. Adam Scott, Russell Henley, Siwoo Kim have all played well at both. YLI, home of the Sony Open. Russell Henley has played well at both. Siwoo Kim has played well at both. Hideki Matsuyama has played well at both. And then TPC Southwind, just another Southeastern Bermuda water heavy course. Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas have played well at both. So yeah, those are kind of what I'm looking at for the key stats. When you look at the overall course history this week, and Data Golf has not updated this, so we don't have like this week's field loaded into this list. But you look at the guys that have played well that are going to be playing this event. Scotty Scheffler obviously has the best history here. He's won 2 out of the last 3 years. He was my one and done pick last year when he went T20. That was not a good call. Akshay Bhatia was T3 here last year, rates out very well. Hideki has played very well here. 5th and 6th in 23 and 24, did miss the cut last year. Corey Connors generally plays pretty well. Missed 1 cut in the last 5 years. The others have all been 26th or better. Siwoo Kim withdrew in 2022. That was the really weird weather week. But he's been very good other than that in the last 5 years. Ludwig Oberg, 8th and 24, but a missed cut last year. You guys kind of see what I'm getting at now with course history not being super important, because like everybody who has a good finish here also has a missed cut here as well. Like except for like Aaron Rai, who's finished 19th, 35th, and 14th here. So there you go, Aaron Rai. Aaron Rai hasn't missed a cut. Tom Hoagie also hasn't missed a cut here in the last 5 years. All right, that's what we're looking at for the course itself. Now let's take a look at the board and let's talk about our strategy for DFS betting in one and done. All right, so to me, the biggest variable heading into this week is going to be how the public perceives Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy heading into this week. Because on paper, you have a golf course that is perfect for both of their games, and an event that the two of them have combined for 4 wins at in the 6 editions that has been hosted in March, which is an insane stat. The players have been in March 6 times. Scotty and Rory have won 4 of them. Insane, right? So why would we not play him this week? Why would we not be interested in him this week, right? Well, they are literally coming off about the worst case scenario at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Literally. Rory McIlroy withdraws with a back injury before round 3. That's not good. And Scotty Scheffler finishes T24, which is his worst finish in over a calendar year. So, like, we have probably the instance of the two of these guys coming in with the worst perceived form in recent memory for the two of them, right? Considering that they combined for 3 of the 4 majors last year, considering that they're the 2 best golfers in the world by far, considering that they've won this event 4 out of the 6 times, been in March, that's about as bad of a smudge as you can get in terms of recent form for both of them. Meanwhile, DraftKings, who put the pricing out last Friday before all of this went down, has the two of them as significantly the highest priced golfers in DFS. So what I think you're going to get this week, y'all, in DFS is a significantly low-owned Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy. So that begs the question, do you want to play a low-owned Scottie and Rory? Or do you want to play one of these mega balanced builds? Well, for Scottie this week, I'm not going to lie to y'all. It's really, really hard to put together a good argument for Scottie this week based off of what we just saw at Bay Hill. He has not had his same iron game this year as what was his superpower that made him the best player in the world for probably 4 straight years now. He has not been that same iron player in 2026. He's been great off the tee. He's still a plus distance, plus accuracy player on average. He's still one of the world's best around the green players, still one of the world's best putters now all of a sudden, which for 2 years we joked that he couldn't putt and I should putt for him. And now he's one of the world's best putters. So it boils down to me for Scottie, one of the statements I made when talking about the golf course. This is not a course to find form. This is a course where you want to come in good form and continue good form. However, also think back to what I was talking about with the profile of the course, where this is a course where course management reigns supreme. Who is the best course manager in all of professional golf? Scottie Scheffler. So to me, I think I'm going to lean in this week to playing Scottie and playing Rory in DFS, knowing that they're going to be supremely low owned, knowing that there's plenty of guys in the 6 and 7K range that I can play with them. And I think that in betting, I'm not going to fear them in the outright market. I don't think you need to do it without Scottie, without Rory outright market. I don't think that they're super likely to win the event, but I do think that given their domination of this event, they're supremely likely to pop up in the top 5. They're supremely likely to be contending on Sunday. And I'm going to take my chances on a low-owned Scottie and Rory in DFS. Now, the guy that's going to be super popular this week, probably going to be the highest owned golfer on the board in DFS, is going to be Collin Morikawa, because he's coming in with, let me think the best way to phrase this, the opposite profile of Scottie, right? He's coming in with this supreme iron form, gained over 10 strokes on approach at Pebble, gained about 5 at Riviera, gained about as much at Bay Hill, and had a really good performance at Bay Hill. He ended up finishing T5. So Collin's recent form is about as good as it could conceivably get, right? His history here is about as bad as I could have perceived it being. On paper, this would be a great golf course for Collin Morikawa. He's in great control of his golf ball off the tee. He's a great iron player, but he's not a good short game player. And to me, this is a course where he's never really found it with the short game. And so his good finishes have come when he has a good iron week, when he finishes T13 or T10. If he doesn't have a good iron week, he could miss the cut or finish outside the top 40. So I just don't really know what to make of Collin this week. What I do know is that he's going to be supremely popular in DFS. I don't think, and we saw this week where Matt Fitzpatrick was kind of trending in the right direction and looking like the best profile play for the golf course. And he was super popular in DFS, and he was a total letdown. And I think that very same thing could happen to Collin this week. The other guy that I'm very interested in the 9K range is Russell Henley. So Sawgrass just feels like it should be a great Russell Henley golf course. At Riviera, not really the spot for him, right? Missed the cut at a signature event, which is not what we want to see. But he bounced back at Bay Hill, finished T6, right? We think of Russell Henley generally as an elite iron player, which you do need here. And he's actually a pretty good short game player when in the Southeast. And you look at his history here. Let me remove the cognizant. He has some good finishes, right? He's also got some missed cuts. Last year, he was coming in off of the win at Bay Hill, finished T30, had a very poor putting week, but he's generally a pretty positive putter here. So I do think that this is a pretty good spot for Russell Henley, and I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of people talking about him. I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of ownership on him. I think that that 9K range, there's a lot of guys that you can try to talk yourself into. I think Henley is the one that I'm going to be the most interested in DFS. Now, my guy, Robert McIntyre, let's talk about him for just a second. He was a core play for me at Bay Hill, and kind of mixed results. The problem with Robert McIntyre right now, and he does have a good history here. He played here last year and finished ninth, which is really what we like. The problem with Bobby Mack right now is he has not been good with his irons since Sony. Bay Hill makes it 4 straight starts where he's lost with his irons. But what we do know about Bobby Mack is that long term, he's a pretty good iron player. And he can really, he's a really good manager of the golf course. He's a really good short game player. He's a really good total driver of the golf ball. So if Bobby Mack were to just find the iron form, he has the exact perfect profile what we're looking for. And the good news for him is that he's finishing well in these tournaments, even without displaying a whole lot of form with the irons. So I think for a second straight week, he is going to fly under the radar. Not a lot of people are going to talk about him, and I think that this is a really good spot for him. I also think this would be a really good spot for Ludwig Oberg. So for Ludwig, the Players' Championship for a lot of guys has turned into an event where they win it and it's like the crown jewel of their career. There's a lot of guys that have won a Players that have never won a major, right? And it feels like for Ludwig, I don't know if he's ready to win a major yet. He might be ready to win this event. And he showed some chops at Bay Hill, finished T3, which is not easy. Fired 67 on Sunday, which is really what I like to see. He's gained strokes in all 4 categories in now 3 straight events. His history here, he finished 8th in 2024 before missing the cut last year. So mixed bag there. But that 8th place finish, while losing strokes putting, shows us that he does have a little bit of a fit for this golf course, that he absolutely could be a guy that we could be looking at. I like Ludwig a lot this week at 8,700. And I think he might be a guy I'm interested in outright betting this week. Another guy that I'm going to be on big time this week is Cam Young. So he was one of my one and done selections this week. I didn't pick him officially for the show, but I did play him in one of them. And I got about as good a result as I could have asked for, a T3 where nobody had the winner or second place. So that's about as good as you could have done at this particular event, because I don't think a whole lot of people were picking Akshay. So T3 at the Arnold Palmer, T7 at the Genesis. Cam Young, for whatever reason, is really good at like club down off the tee golf courses. And we saw Bryson DeChambeau come third here, where he didn't swing a driver all week, and Cam Young's the kind of guy that could do that. Big reason why Cam Young's been good lately is because he's really found it with his irons. And he's all of a sudden become an above average short game player. For the first few years of his career, he was not. Now, the bad news with Cam Young is his history here is utterly putrid. He's made the cut 3 out of 4 times, but he's never finished inside the top 50. So, course history is the red flag, but recent form, fit for the course, I think Cam Young is really, really worth the look in DFS at 8,100. I was this morning prepared to get on here and talk at length about Akshay Bhatia and how good of a fit he is for this golf course, and how all of his form was trending in the right direction, and he was looking towards getting a win because I was expecting him to finish runner-up at Bay Hill. And then he goes and downright beats Daniel Berger on Sunday, overcomes some of the gap in the end of round 3, beats him straight up in round 4, wins the playoff. And you're talking about that's the first signature event win for a kid that's going to win a lot on the PGA Tour. It's easy to forget that he's like the same age as Ludwig. And if for some reason it feels like he's been around longer because he's been playing professional golf longer. Kid's really talented. I've been very bullish on him long-term for a long time, especially if you've been listening to the show. I think this course is an outstanding fit for him. He was T3 last year. I don't know if going back to him after the win is the right thing to do. As good of a fit as I think this is, as good as the form obviously is, you just won the biggest event of your career, $4 million, life-changing money. Are you really going to show up Monday morning ready to get back to work and go conquer a difficult golf course in a difficult field? I don't know if Akshay's wired like that. I think he could be, so I think he's worth playing. But man, I just don't think it's likely he's going to win back-to-back signature events. You know what I mean? Just nobody does that. Let's talk Minwoo Lee real quick. So Minwoo Lee, we have talked about the last few weeks, and he has pretty much not let us down yet. And a big reason why is because Minwoo Lee, traditionally long-term bad iron player, who is traditionally an elite off-the-tee player, an elite short game player, has been fairly good with his irons, was really good with them at Pebble Beach, was kind of bad with him at Genesis, but it really didn't matter, and was kind of good at him at Bay Hill, and he finished T6. So add that to the fact that he's finished 6th, 54th, and 20th here. I believe he had the 36-hole lead here last year. That has me really interested in Minwoo Lee, like really interested in him in DFS and potentially a long shot bet to win. After that, I do want to talk about Ryan Gerard. So he missed the cut in Arnold Palmer. Not obviously what you'd be looking for, but the only thing that let him down was the putter. Was really good ball striker, and that's kind of been his profile all season long. He's been a really good ball striker. He's shown up at these signature events. He's shown up at the comp courses, by the way, T2 at Sony, T2 at Pete Dye's PGA West. I think this is a pretty good spot for Gerard, and I don't think a lot of people are going to click him after the missed cut. I like playing him at $7,400 in DFS this week. Another guy I really like this week is Aaron Rai. So Aaron Rai did not play in the Arnold Palmer Invitational. I guess he wasn't qualified, but Aaron Rai kind of fits the billing for a lot of like what we talked about. The only thing he really doesn't do well is he's not a good putter, but like he's a good around the green player. So if he could just have a good putting week, he has the exact profile we're looking for. He gains with his irons pretty much every single start. He's an incredibly accurate player off the tee. Here, he's never finished worse than 35th, and he's been a good iron player every single time. So I think that, and he's also has a win at the comp course Setchfield. So I think Aaron Rai at $7,200, that's a value play in DFS you got to be interested in. I think everybody and their brother is going to play Daniel Berger after the T2 at Arnold Palmer, where he almost won wire to wire. Very disappointing end for him. Like I said with Akshay, I don't think Berger lost the tournament. I think Akshay went out and took it, which I think does matter for context. You're not like playing a guy off of kind of like a choke job like Shane Lowry had 2 weeks ago. So for Berger, I think everybody's going to go right back to him. I'm not. I think that this is a much more difficult short game golf course than Bay Hill, and that was the one aspect of Berger's game that was not firing on all cylinders, and I don't know if he's going to be able to have that here. And so I think he kind of makes sense as a popular play who's going to be chalk to fade here at this event. One guy I will mention in the bottom of the 7K range, Ryo Hisatsune. Like, what does this dude have to continue doing to be priced up higher? All he does this year is just show up and make the cut, finish in the top 40. That's what he's done everywhere. He's done it at signature events, long courses, short courses, don't matter. I think the dude's got the goods, and he's only $7,100. I'm gonna keep going back to him. Keith Mitchell is an interesting play to me. He had a really good Sunday. He was a core play for me at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. The only thing he did poorly at API was putting. The ball striking was there. We know he's a prolific off the tee player. We've also mentioned a long time with Keith that he kind of plays well at whatever courses Rory plays well at. They have some crossover wins, some crossover success, similar profiles, just obviously a junior version. And Rory McIlroy's won twice here since the Players has moved to March. So I think this is a good spot to go back to Keith as well at $7,000. And then the 6K range, look, it's loaded with a lot of guys that like wouldn't shock me at all if they're there Sunday. Like Davis Thompson finished T4 in Puerto Rico in the alternate event, just a prodigious ball striker, and that's kind of like what you see win a lot here. Then you've got Nico Echeverria, who has made 3 cuts this year, an 8th, a 1st, and a 44th. Obviously winning in Florida at the Cognizant Classic. I think that there's obviously some upside there as well. And then Matt McCarty seems to kind of be under the radar. He's just a really good middle iron player, and he can be a really good putter. Those are 2 things that really play well at TPC Sawgrass. So I think he's worth a look at $6,700. Pearson Coody, everybody is going to avoid him like the plague after he missed the cut as chalk at API, but I kind of think I'm going to go right back to him. He had been really good so far this season, playing well at the comp courses. I'm going to go right back to him, and he's a super cheap price tag now at $6,700. Is there anybody else? Another guy, yeah, Ryan Fox, I'll mention, because he's another guy that, like, all he does this year is finish in the top 25. He's done it at every event he's played, and he's shown it at big boy golf courses. He's shown it at signature events. He's just a very balanced player, and that plays well here. And for some reason, he's still $6,500. I think that he's probably the last guy I'm going to mention Yeah, there's not really a whole lot at the bottom of the board that interests me. I'll probably have to do a little more research on the value plays, but those were a few that just stood out to me at first pass. Let's talk about one and done, and then we will close it out. So about the worst thing you could have done in one and done at Bay Hill was pick Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy. After I got on Monday and said how this is a perfect place to pick Rory or Scotty because they're coming in with such good form. They've won the event. It's a big boy golf course. It's got a cut. Perfect place to pick Rory or Scotty. And Rory withdraws, and Scotty finishes T24, which is his worst result in a long, long time. Yeah, pretty rough week if you picked one of those two, and I did. So now I got some ground to make up. So what would really be an interesting play is to go back to Rory or Scotty this week. Obviously, Rory, we're going to need to get news on the injury either way. But what would really be a pivot move would be to go with Rory or Scotty when they're coming in with all these question marks, right? What is probably the sensible thing is to just pick whichever guy near the top of the board that you like, right? So Siwoo Kim is coming in great iron form. I like Russell Henley. We went over him, but in this one and done I've been picking on the show, I've already picked both of them. So it kind of begs the question on like who to go with, right? Like two of the guys that I would like, I've already picked. So let's see who is available for me to pick. Let's take a look here. You know what? I think this might be Colin Morikawa one and done time. You look at the remaining schedule, right? Is there anywhere on the calendar where you're going to be really dying to use Colin Morikawa? I don't think so. Also, the counterpoint would be, is Colin Morikawa a two signature event in a season type of guy? And I think the argument might be yes. I am going to be actually very interested to see the performance of Colin Morikawa, Akshay Bhatia, Jacob Bridgman, Chris Gotterup, like the guys that have won already this season. I'm going to be super curious to see how their performance is leading up to the Masters, because one trend we've seen with the Masters is the guy that wins the Masters is always a guy who's already won that calendar year. So the guys that have already won, I'm going to be very interested to see how they do leading up to the Masters, because those are going to be the guys I'm going to be interested with at the Masters. I think Colin, point is, that whole tangent is I think that Colin is a very interesting Masters pick right now. Right. But for here at this event, I think it's a perfect spot to pick Colin for one and done. All right. That is going to do it here for this episode, y'all. Hopefully we gave you guys all the information you need in order to make some good DFS picks, bets, and one and done selections this week. Remember, if you want more from us, you can always follow me on Twitter. It's where I tweet out all updates for the show. I'm also in the Fantasy Corner Discord. Link is in the description. And I post all my golf core plays every single week on the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks, with a full article as to why they are the core plays. It was a really good week for the core. Last week, it was Rory, Akshay, Keith Mitchell, and Ryan Fox. So if Rory doesn't withdraw, it would have been a really, really good week. It was still a positive week in DFS, though. So anyway, that is going to do it here for us this week, y'all. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. Rate and review for listening on audio. That was helping me out a ton. It's just a very easy way to show me some love, because it's 100% free, takes minimal effort, and it helps the channel out so much more than you could ever understand. So, yeah, and then while you're there, make sure you're subscribed. That can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season, as well as all of our college basketball content that is coming your way the next few weeks as well, because there's going to be a lot of that. Anyway, that's going to do it here for us. We went a little over the 30-minute time period, or 30-minute time limit this week, but I think it was worth it. It's the Players Championship. It's the 5th major, right? So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys got all the information you need. Best of luck to you guys with your DFS lineups, bets, and one and dones at the Players Championship. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.